Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Zamora 2-Player Podcast. I am here, your player 1, Garrett Zamora, and joining me today is my brother Matt as my player 2. Matt, thanks for joining.
Yo. Hey, no problem. Thanks again. It's been a little while. Just summer's been busy and crazy.
Yeah.
So
summer's been busy for both of us, so it's been a little bit since we've been able to sit down. I've finished everything in Dawn Trail that I want to do before the next patch. I do basically everything except the like hardcore raids because I have too many games to play. I can't spend 30 hours a week grinding one fight. You know what I mean? Like every week.
Yeah.
So I've done obviously did the main storyline. Leveled all of my classes, including the crafting and gathering ones, to the new max. Got all of the weapons from the two all of the weapons and all the accessories from the two hardest fights besides the hardcore raids. And I think that was mainly it. Yeah, those two fights were like the last things that I did that I was like, okay, I just need to do like my daily dungeon now to keep getting the currency, because there's like a weekly limit to the one that buys like one of the better gears for like casual people that are like not hardcore raiders. So I just do my daily dungeon at least 5 times a week now. That's all I gotta do. So I've done everything until the next patch. So it's been busy for me.
So I don't play FF14, but when I was home this summer, you were showing me a bunch of stuff and just a lot of the like FF6 inspired stuff
that's
from
right.
the game.
Which
was
here,
super cool.
You were here like a week after my week off that I took. So I got a lot done that week. That's right. Yeah. Forgot we hadn't recorded since you were here for that. Just all like there's so many references. There's of like the Gunblade stuff from FF8 and like Magitech armor FF6. Yeah, there's a lot. That gif of like Zach Galifianakis from Hangover when he's like, that's literally me when I'm playing new content in 14, because it's just like, oh, that's this guy from that game, and that's the boss music, but the remade version from this game, and it's just like all that, and even like the names of moves are references to things. So, or the
fan service all over the place.
So so I had to show Matt some of that stuff while he was home. And then another thing, now we're going to talk about our topic that we're going to discuss today. I thought it'd be fun to talk about what makes like some of our favorite sequels and like what makes a really good sequel, because there's a few games that I've been playing that made me want to talk about this. So we'll get into that in a minute. But another thing we've been doing, and it's definitely infectious between Mike and I, which bleeds into you, is they started doing Tekken 8 at the weekly, where I used to go for like the weekly Smash tournaments. They do Tekken 8 now as well. And my friend at work told me they would do that, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know like how I'll do it like a tournament. Like, we just play a lot with each other, right? Like
casual.
So I was like, I don't know. And so Mike and I we went 1 week, and like even he was reluctant. He's like, I guess we'll go 1 week or whatever. I was like, we'll see. We were almost like dragging each other to go. Like, we should just try it, like, for 1 week or whatever. Now there's definitely only like 16 or 17 people that go for that, compared to like 30 or 40 that go to the Smash. And I think it's like 20 some for Street Fighter. And so we went, and it was funny because the guy was like, the guy knew us because we went to the Smash weeklies for like, a couple years, on and off. So he like recognized our usernames, and he asked us, is like, so like, I don't know how to like seed you in the tournament. Like, how, like, what's your skill level? And I was just like, like you don't know when like I'm pretty good against my brother and my cousin.
Yeah.
Like play online a bit, but it's like that's a different environment. Like that's not the same as playing someone face to face. Like you know, and so it's like I don't know. Like we play casually, but for like 20 years,
Yeah.
you know. So like I don't know. Like I don't really know how we stack up. And it's like I think he seeded us somewhere in the middle, like not lowest seed, but like kind of in the middle. And yeah, that first week, Mike and I both placed better than we ever did going to Smash for like 3 years.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I came in third that first week because when I went the next week, he was like, "Don't leave if you get top three because I have money for you." It was like
Yeah.
a couple bucks, like it's not because the player count is so low. It
Yeah.
basically just paid for my next week's entry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did that, and then I went the next. We went the next week, and the guy who got first the week before wasn't there, so it went down to like me and the guy who got second that week.
Oh, wow.
And I came in. It was so it's a double elimination tournament. So I lost at one point to this guy, and I went through like the losers bracket, and where me and Mike had to actually face each other.
Oh, wow.
And it was like the sweatiest we've ever me and Mike specifically have ever played Tekken was like the
Yeah.
sweatiest we've
High
ever played.
stakes.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
high stakes. And then I came up and like fought the guy that was in, you know, at the top. And so when it's double elimination, when you come up from the losers bracket, if you so you're in the best of five at that point instead of best of three, and it's like if you win one of those games, that's his first loss, so it just resets the bracket and you got to go again another best of five because
Oh,
he's
okay.
only lost once at that point if I beat him, and he has to lose twice to be out, whereas I can only lose one more time.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
so we went into that game five and I won, and it was like a he was coming in. Who he was Lars, which I don't know that matchup super well because
Mm.
none of us play that character.
Mhm.
And I just got like a low parry. Like I just saw it coming, and I was like, I got it because I was low,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is my own chance, and like got a low parry off, and then actually like killed him and like reset the bracket. And then we went to I think he like 3-0'd me in the last one because he's like figured me out by that point.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, but still, like I reset the bracket, so that felt good. And then so I got second that week.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
anyway, all that to say, we've been playing a lot of Tekken lately
Oh, man.
because it's just like such a like brain rot now, where you know just got that taste of playing Tekken at a higher, you know, at like competitive level or whatever, at least locally. And
Yeah.
then last week, I wanted to do all three, so I did Smash, Street Fighter 6, and Tekken. Um, and
Like, at the same place, at the same night?
yeah, they host them all.
Yeah.
They just start like I think it's like Smash is at 6, Street Fighter's at 6:30, and then Tekken's between 7 and 7:30.
Right, right.
And they all coordinate so that like if they know you're doing your Street Fighter match, they'll run another match.
Okay.
You know, like
Gotcha.
it's a small enough thing that they can kind of coordinate with each other and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did that, and then I think Street Fighter I like won one game and lost two, so he was like 14th place or whatever. Smash I was like dead last because like I don't even care about Smash anymore. I was just playing it. I wanted to do all three.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it was more fun, when that game is lower stakes. I'm not worried about because like with Smash, it's like I know I'm not good at a competitive level. Like I struggle to get every single win that I do playing
Yeah,
against
yeah.
the people that are there, because that's all they do, or at least they spend a lot more time practicing and stuff. So it's like it was fun to like not worry about being out super early because I know almost I very rarely get more than like one or two wins in Smash. And I'm just like killing time until Tekken starts,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So
so, and it's funny because, Garrett and Mike obviously kind of are able to go to this, and I'm in Ontario, so I'm not able to join this
right.
tournament, but they get all jazzed up about this, and then I'm like playing against them in like super jazzed up tournament uh decompression mode,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I've had to up my game, and
Yeah.
so it's been so much Tekken recently.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I both love and hate Tekken. Like
Yeah.
I'll
I
win.
think any fighting game can have that effect on me.
Like it sounds cliche, but like I've been this close to throwing my controller at the TV. Like where it's like kind of almost leaving my hand. I'm like, no, that's stupid. You will break something.
Yeah.
But it's like I get so angry.
Yeah.
And but then when you win, you're like, oh, I love this game. I'm so good at this
Yeah.
game. This is amazing. And then you lose, especially if it's Mike playing a stupid character. And like, sorry, fans of Alyssa or Jack, those are stupid characters. And you're just like, God damn it, you three and would me against my best character. Like,
Yeah.
I hate this game. I'm clearly bad at this, and I should never play it again.
Yeah.
One more round, kick his ass. Like, okay, no,
No, I'm
that was
good.
a
I'm good at
fluke.
this
Yeah, I'm
game.
good. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good.
It's
Uh,
funny because like when you go and play in a tournament, it's like the nerves are there, even if it's a small tournament. You're just playing in a in-person tournament. It always like takes like a couple games to like stop, just to get the jitters out. At
yeah,
least in the
yeah,
beginning, like as you like I found when we went last week, I wasn't like nervous for my first game,
yeah,
because we'd gone for a couple weeks. But the first game I ever did for Tekken, like the first week we went, the guy that I was up against, he came in like he seemed like a little cocky. Like
yeah,
he wasn't being like a dick or anything, but it just like he like definitely had the air of like he was ready to win like
yeah,
some games or whatever. And he picked Elisa, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, I didn't say it, but I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I know how to
yeah,
fight this character.
yeah,
Like, I know
yeah,
how to play against this character so well because like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably
exactly.
Mike's most played character is Elisa at this point.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously Mike plays a different way than this guy plays. Everyone has their own way of playing their characters, but um, there's definitely like things that he did that Mike will try to do or whatever. And it's just like,
yeah.
no, no, no.
Nice try.
I know how to
I know
block
what you're
these.
trying to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It was funny. Like it's also I love to play in that environment because like part of the playing online that I find difficult is that you can't interact with the
yeah,
person.
yeah,
And so you're just like, is this person being a total dick? Like,
yeah,
and that might motivate me to like play better. It's like, or are they just like really stoic and humble, and it makes it harder for me to want to beat them, kind of thing.
yeah.
So not seeing your actual human opponent, I find sometimes, uh,
It definitely makes it more like I'll get more mad at myself when I play bad if I'm playing with random people online
yeah,
compared
yeah,
to if I have a bad match in a tournament. It's
yeah,
like I don't know why it is with when there's that disconnect of like not being in the same room with the person you're fighting, but I'll get
yeah.
way more angry with myself when I do poorly in that situation versus at a tournament or whatever.
I
Like in person, I mean.
I was playing the other night, and it was like um I lost 2 rounds really badly. And then it was just like, take a fucking breath, and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you could tell he was kind of showboating a little bit, like
Sure.
sorry, he or she. And but like after 2 rounds of schooling me, but then like I was like, okay, you know what? They keep doing this low attack, so just like block that low, and then like I had an idea of what I could do to kind of punish that,
Yeah.
and then boom, 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 3 wins, win the match, and then clearly immediate request for a replay,
Rematch. Yeah.
and it's like, okay, look, do this again, and just keep doing what you're doing, and then so like 1, 2, 3 wins, and like I just imagine like the other person just like, God damn it.
Yeah. I can
I-
imagine that because I've done that.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
I've
yeah,
been in that boat before
yeah,
too. Um, And yeah, that's like when you start playing more like competitively, like when we're just playing with us like at home, like we're not being super tactical or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like when you start playing like like more competitive like that, that's what's so fun when you're just like, okay, they've done that move like 3 times. It's like, are we ready for it next time? And then you
Eh,
you do, you are ready and you punish it properly. And it's just like there's like one guy that I kept I would knock him, like I would hit him back or whatever, and
yeah.
I would come in for like a running like jump kick, and he would just stay on the ground, and I'd go over him, and he'd get up and launch me and do a combo. And
Yeah.
he got me like 2 or 3 times with that. I was like, okay, you're gonna lay on the ground, sure.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so with June, she does like her kind of like butterfly kick, like she both legs up in the air and lands, and then does the like little whatever beam she shoots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
every time he would lay on the ground, and I'm like, boom, 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 and it's just like, and I would hit him,
Yeah.
and he's like, ah, and I just throw him off, and it's like, like when you, that's what only more time playing
Yeah.
will make you get better at doing that kind of thing. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, they're doing this. I know I can do this
Recognizing.
thing to get to get around that or whatever.
I
It's so
was
much
pretty
fun.
proud. I was playing against this. I can only assume a douchebag. And it kept like whenever I'd get on the ground, he was doing this move on me, like just to like hit me pretty hard on the ground.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, God damn it! I was like, oh wait, I know what I can do. And so he kept doing it over and over. But then if you hit square, you roll.
Yeah.
And so it'd just be like roll out of the way, and then Hwarang has like an awesome like kick to launch you straight up, and there's like a pseudo kind of like air throw you can do with them. So I just kept doing that. It's like, oh, you're gonna try to hit me while I'm on the ground? Roll out of the way. Boom, like you're out of here. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm on to you. But anyway, that feels pretty good.
And that's truly like any fighting game. That's why they are so addictive when you like when you just like I don't think I'm great at Tekken, like I'm good or whatever, but it's like when you just get good enough to like know how to, like when you're reading an opponent and you're like, okay, they're doing this thing, I know I have this at least one thing in my toolkit that I can do that will beat that thing. So you
Yeah,
just got to be
yeah,
good
yeah, yeah,
enough to have like one of those for a bunch of different, like,
yeah,
okay, I need to do something like a, after I block low, a rising move that I can do something with, and then
yeah,
how do I
yeah,
get something off the ground fast enough, or you just have to have like at least one for the like a couple different types of scenarios, and then that's what it becomes like so just addictive when like that stuff works. God, I love playing fighting games like that. It's like any
um,
fighting game, it has that same feeling for sure. Tekken is just the most satisfying for us because we know those characters so well that like we have a lot of those like situational
yeah.
moves that we can think of on the fly because we've played it for so long.
It was really funny. I was playing Mike the other day, and he picked Horong, which is my favorite character. And he did this move, and it was almost like we both like stopped, and it was just audibly, it was just like, oh, like he had never seen that before, and I didn't even know that was a move, which is why Mike has never seen it before.
Right.
And then I didn't even have to ask. He was like downright circle circle. And I was like, okay, thank you. That's a new move I'm going to add
Yeah.
to my repertoire.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. And then um it was neat because I think it was yesterday. I was just playing some online, and I played against a guy who plays Harang and plays a lot like me. Like it was,
Okay.
I felt like I was doing a ghost battle.
Sure.
And so I was just like, this is really weird. And then kind of learned a few things like, oh, that is a good move and is clearly part of like my fighting style. So like
Right.
I'm gonna file that one away for a rainy day
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I, I
But
had like a little bit of a advantage for the first couple weeks because uh I think Mike said he heard them when I was playing like one of those first matches, and because I was playing June mostly because
Yeah.
she's just the one that I don't have to think about
Yeah.
the move I want to do. Like it just I have such
Yeah.
a muscle memory for her. And I was mostly playing June the whole time. And when I picked her, I think Mike said something there like, "Oh shit, we don't know how to play against June," or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
one that goes to the weekly where I live like plays June regularly,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
they don't know her moves that well or
Nice.
her style or whatever. So I have to start. I've been like just like making sure like my Asuka or like Lily is like decently practiced because like I
Yeah.
think they're starting to figure out my June.
Yeah.
So I just want to be able to have another character. And like Mike has been the only one that has made me. Mike has my June like pretty figured
Figured
out.
out. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
had to switch every time I run into Mike in the bracket. I had to switch to Asuka, and then I could get him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of beginner's luck because they didn't know the June matchup very well.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we've been playing that a lot more lately just because a to practice because we want to go back to the tournament and do better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like you were saying, like the addictive nature of figuring out someone in real time and like countering them or whatever. Like that's
Yeah.
just the best feeling. Very few games can give you that same level of like that very specific feeling of like satisfaction for doing something like that. It's just god, that's why fighting games are the best.
And like I just love doing like outfit crap in Tekken. Like
Outfits, yeah, sure, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a friend over last weekend and it was just like, okay, you need to help me set up two new outfits for characters. So I showed off a few of them playing against Mike the other day. So anyways,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway,
Anyway, and we also
lots of
just
Tekken.
we also discovered, so we had to laugh like it was like one of our first episodes about Mike having a weird way to play the game. And we're like, no, we all play it weird because we all play the Tekken grip. But
Yeah.
Mike, where me and Matt we just use two fingers to do these. Mike does three apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he in our weird controller group of three people, he's the weirdest one.
Yeah,
He's
exactly,
got the
exactly.
weirdest method.
Yeah. In terms of the weird grips, he has a slightly weirder
He's got a
one.
weird version of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's very clear that we all three just want to play more Tekken right now. So
yeah, yeah.
I was looking at my hours, and it's like, man, am I gonna eclipse Rebirth by the end of the year?
Oh
Because I
man,
think
yeah.
Rebirth is like, I don't think I will because Rebirth, I'm pretty sure it's like 220 or 230 hours, but Tekken is at like 160, I think now for the year.
And it's a thing, right? Like the game is built to be multiple hours kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
difference
yeah.
the difference being that 160 hours is since January, whereas
Yeah.
Rebirth
Yeah.
was 230 hours in 2 weeks or
2 weeks.
something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah, slightly different approach.
Oh man.
But
Um
anyway, so
I
yeah, a lot of Tekken.
A lot of Tekken, and just as a very quick segue, I have a good friend who is a big FF7 fan who got Rebirth, but he's like, oh, like I got it, and I was kind of busy at work, and then like lives in Calgary, so it's like in the summer they go to the mountains. Like he's like, I'm in the mountains every weekend, constantly. So I was like, oh, so how far are you in Rebirth? I haven't even started,
Oh
and I was
god.
like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, look, when it gets to winter and Calgary's kind of a tundra at that time, it's like he's like, look, I'll boot it up in the winter, but right now we just go hiking in the Rockies all the time.
Enjoying the
Um,
summer.
but I was like, the minute you start playing it, like you have to give me daily updates. I want story beats.
Yeah, that's what I do with my
Oh,
friends too.
like to if I could erase my memory and redo that game again. And I told him I was like, it's legit a religious experience.
Yeah.
That
If
game.
you're someone who like grew up with the old one and just like has a love for it, that a lot of people do, it's just like that was like a life changing like week off that I took
Yeah.
to play that and experience that game. Uh, just oh my god, so good.
I
So on that
eh,
note,
yeah, I was about to say
uh,
that this is
the
a good top. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. Good
well,
segue. Yeah.
the exciting part is Matt and I are actually going to the FF7 Rebirth concert in like 4 days or
Yeah.
something, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm meeting him in Toronto, and we're gonna go to that show. And the worst part about it is like it's gonna make me want to play the game again, and I don't have time right now to go through that game because
I
there's
know.
no way I can do that game and skip the side stuff because the side stuff is so fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like if whenever I replay that game, it's gonna be 100-hour playthrough,
Yeah. Yeah.
like just to replay it. And yeah, I just don't have the time to do it right now. But I'm kind of glad that I haven't like that I finished it so long ago because like the music will just like it'll have that like not nostalgia because it's just this year, but it's like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
I'm listening to those songs all the time because I'm playing the game right now. So I think they'll just hit a little different. And we weren't sure because I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone that's listening to this in Canada knows. There was a very uh,
Like looming
yeah, looming
yeah.
air strike with our airline that we were using to go that I'm using to go. And it was literally like this morning at like 12:05 a.m. like
Yeah.
just past midnight that I got an email that says like they reached because this was their deadline or whatever. Like to have an agreement by today or else they'd
Yeah.
start winding down. And yeah, so I didn't know until like this morning that if I was going to be able to go or not because
Yeah.
there just wasn't enough other flights to rebook and it just wasn't going to work because there were no other real flights that we could use within the same time frame. So anyway, yeah, Matt and I will be reliving the glory of that soundtrack in a concert hall on
Yeah.
Thursday. So that is
That's
super
like
super exciting.
the FF7 Rebirth like orchestral tour, the
Yeah.
Square Enix kind of tour. So
I
anyway,
saw
it's gonna be
people that like posting about. I think that one of the first shows they did of the tour was in like California, and
LA or
so a lot
something.
of
Yeah.
I saw a lot of like content creators that I watch
Mhm.
posting about it and stuff, and just how good it was. So yeah,
Oh,
definitely,
I can't
definitely
wait because
pumped for that.
Garrett and I were supposed to go to the remake one,
Mm,
um, but it was
like
right in
what?
the middle of COVID and like you couldn't travel really and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
I went in Toronto and brought a buddy of mine who took Garrett's ticket because he couldn't make it. But and it was so good. So I'm so excited for this one. And I remember like anyway, they had like an actual harp for the kind of like
The
prelude and
yeah, I remember
stuff. And
you. I think you even said it on this
oh, maybe I
podcast that
did.
your friend's reaction to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Cam was
yeah.
just like totally. And then they had an just some local whatever, but they sang Hollow
Mm,
as well. But anyways, it was just awesome. It's
yeah.
just so good. So I'm excited. That's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, and I'll probably cry because Air's theme will play
Oh, definitely.
at
Yeah.
some point, and it will destroy me.
Mhm.
So anyway, yeah, so that's coming up. That'll be a fun thing for us to do. And we've talked about that game once or twice on this podcast, so we
Maybe.
obviously
You'd have to check the tapes, but
yeah.
yeah.
Some avid listeners may have picked up on the subtle hints that we like that game. Um,
Subtly.
yeah, but anyway, so also a decent segue into our actual topic that we're going to talk about today, which is
Mm,
talking about sequels. Um, and so I told Matt to bring one or two games, and I have one or two just to bring forward as examples of what we think a really good sequel is, and maybe like what makes a good sequel. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because the big game I'm bringing to talk about is Borderlands 2
mm,
because I've been going on. I just went on this. I think it was in spite of the movie because I refused to go see it, but I was also like, man, but Borderlands. I was like, I was annoyed that the movie was so terribly cast and it just there's no, you couldn't pay me to watch that movie. Everything I saw about it was like, there's no way I'm watching it. But it like bothered me because like, man, but like I love Borderlands though. Like I wish they made a good movie because I would love to watch a movie in that universe. But so in spite of the movie and not refusing to go see it, I was like, oh, let me just play Borderlands again. And I just went right to Borderlands 2 because that's the one that I love the most. And you know, truly it is like, and we'll talk about this more later, but like that is the sequel to me that I hold all other sequels
Hmm.
as like a standard, just in terms of like the way they improve from the first game, like the way
Yeah, yeah.
Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2 work. To me, it's like I subconsciously make that um comparison.
Comparison.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
is it Borderlands 2 level, like in terms of a sequel? So, but obviously, the best sequel ever made is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're just
Exactly.
not even going to talk about it because that'll dominate the whole podcast. But let's just
Yeah.
get that out of the way that that is the best one. So,
Yeah.
and I joke, but it's like, you know, Rebirth did a lot of the things in my brain that like
A
Borderlands 2
good
did from
sequel.
Borderlands
Yeah.
1, just like way more than, like to such an exponentially higher level of quantity of the things they did better. But it still had that same sort of baseline comparison for me for sure.
And I
Um,
think the funny thing about a sequel and like maybe philosophically like how a sequel can be, and maybe this is true for not just games but movies or books or whatever, but it's kind of like I feel like it's either 0 or 100 in that did you take what was good and improve on it, or did you rest on the laurels of the
yeah,
first and phone it in?
yeah,
And it's kind of a pretty sometimes can be an easy question of just like, oh yeah, you're just that's just a cash grab phoning it in. You
right.
didn't do anything different here.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And so like, just in more general terms, like things that I was trying to think of just like, what makes a good sequel for me, like, for a lot of this is personal, preference or whatever. Because some people do just want more of the exact same thing, like for certain
Yep.
games, and that's totally fine. But for me, it's like the key phrase is like familiar but expanded. Like to me,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
like what I want from a sequel. Is I want it to feel like the same world, but I want you to show me more of the world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like that could be the music. Does the music sound still like this franchise, but
Yeah.
expanded and more variety or whatever, but still has like the same kind of, like same atmosphere or same kind of tone or vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
I like it when the like mechanics from the first game get expanded. So
Yeah.
again, you have a lot of the tools you had before, but what else did they, attach on top of that? And then, because we play a lot of like narrative games or games that you play through a story or whatever. Like the writing and the characters need to be familiar. It's got to have the same attitude or this, like I said, the same vibe in terms of writing and characters. But like, show me more though. Like, give me
Yeah.
like show me more. Um, and I use the reference. It's like a good sequel for a game for me is like season 2 or 3 of a sitcom that I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like the
Yeah.
first season is like, anytime I rewatch like Parks and Rec, because I'm using that because I'm just rewatching it now. I like don't watch the first season. Like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't need to watch that part. Let me start at season 2 when they really
Really
like
get
figured out
going.
their characters or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so that's to me when a sequel really hits is when it feels like a season 2 or 3 of a show of like a sitcom that I like, where it's just like, yeah, I know all these characters, and now like where are they? What are they evolving to now, or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, those are like more general terms of what I like from a sequel, and it depends. Like, you know, I think of like Octopath actually
Yeah,
is like though I don't even think the world is technically the same, but that's more of like a that falls more into the category of like what Final Fantasy does, where it's just like
yeah,
similar elements and mechanics and stuff, but like brand new world each time, and that
yeah,
obviously works really well because
yep.
of how much we obsess over that series.
And
But when it's
it's
like a
a
direct sequel, that's more what I'm talking about. Is what makes like a direct continuation of the first game good for me to want to bite into and not just feel like a cash grab is like those things we were talking about.
Yeah, because yeah, I had written Octopath 2 on there, and I was kind of like, is this a sequel per se? It's almost like the Final Fantasy formula.
Yeah,
You could imagine getting up to Octopath 13, and it's like, who's the cleric, who's the
right.
dancer, who's the whatever. Like just yeah, I get the formula and just give me the same. Like you said, I don't consider that phoning it in. It's like
No,
you
because
have such a
they
good formula and just give me more of that,
yeah,
please.
and they did
Yeah.
expand Octopath 2's like its combat is more refined. Like they
Mm.
definitely fixed things from the first game, so it definitely is less of like a lateral move. Like it
Yeah.
definitely like they definitely
Some quality of
increased.
life improvements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it definitely is less, and it doesn't feel like a cash grab at all because that game is absolutely fantastic and doesn't feel phoned in. If anything, feels like the production value on that game was higher than the first one
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because the first one was like proof of concept, and they're like, okay, here's more money, do that
Do
but
that.
better.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it definitely fits a different type of sequel. Like I said, that definitely feels more like a Final Fantasy 4 versus FF, 4 versus 5. It's like those are not sequential at all, but and they're barely even like there's a lot of familiarity, but they pivot and do job system in this one, and that's a whole
Yeah.
other type of sequel for sure.
Yeah. Um, in some of my tabulation, I started kind of like a bit of a sidebar of like games or franchises in which the sequel was the first one I played.
Okay,
And so I think some of these will resonate with you. Like certainly, and I mean, Mega Man 3 was the first one we played.
sure, yeah.
But we'll say like I remember like Chris and Scott, Mega Man 2 was their jam, and it was just like, what the hell is even Mega Man 1? And then like it's like pretty
It's
shitty.
bad,
Yeah.
is what it is.
And so like that's a pretty successful sequel if
Yeah.
if there's lore in Mega Man, but anyway, yeah, yeah.
But
Um
yeah, like if you especially going like 1 to 2, it just like feels better, like the levels are better, music is better, like it definitely is just like a straight upgrade.
Yeah.
Like you
Two
definitely,
is a huge jump from one for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And then
Uh,
3 up the ante again, added the slide, added rush,
yeah.
so yeah, definitely made upgrades. But yeah, we started with 3 on that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Tekken 2. The Tekken original Tekken like was nowhere on our radar ever, but
Nope.
2 was the first
Yeah.
one we played at Jacques. Um And for me, I guess if this is a sequel or successor or whatever, but like uh Near Automata, like
Mm.
that one is I remember I was like, I I've read that this is like a sequel to like a replicant one, and then you were like, just play it. It's fucking incredible. You
Yeah.
don't need to know. It's fine.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I knew of the previous game, but I had never played it. So yeah.
But like that game, oh,
That's the I feel like that's the Yoko Taro effect. That
yeah,
because
yeah,
he
yeah,
didn't I don't no wait, he did. Sorry. The Platinum Games effect is what I mean.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, yeah.
He made Near Replicant, uh but Platinum made developed with him
Hmm.
Near Automata, and that definitely elevated like a lot of aspects of that game for sure.
Oh, that's such
Um,
a fun game too.
I know I've been thinking it when I have a lull, I want to go and replay that one, but yeah, I just don't. I have too many games.
Yeah, exactly.
But
The other
yeah,
thing
it's been
I
a
was gonna
couple of years.
I was just also gonna mention, just in my kind of rapid fire here, was um Arkham 2 or Arkham City
City.
was like the first one I played really because I was at your place that summer.
Oh,
Um
yeah. I forgot
and
you
you
didn't
were
play Asylum first.
No, not at all. And you were like,
Right.
just stick around with this while you're here. And then I was like, oh, this game's incredible.
Yeah.
I gotta go back and play the first one, play, and then kind of went from there. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's a great sequel. That was a really, really good
Yes.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a I would call that a Borderlands 2 level sequel where
Yeah.
it understood the assignment and it like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
upgraded everything in the right way for
Yeah.
sure. Um yeah, that's a really good point. When I'm trying to think now that you say that, I'm trying to think if there are games that I can remember starting at like midway through.
Yeah.
Persona 5, I guess. That's my first Persona game I ever
Oh,
played.
wow.
That's more of a Final Fantasy type of sequel because they're not necessarily
Fair.
sequential, but it definitely was like peak Persona when it
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
by the time it hit 5. But so I went back and I tried to play 3 and 4, but before the remake of Persona 3 came out this year, those ones were like hard to go back to just because they were like the ones
Old
that were
tech.
they were like PS2 games ported to the PSP
Yeah.
or something like that. Like they were multiple generations ago, console wise, and so those are hard. When Persona 3 Reload came out this year, I went through that, and that felt a lot more like P5.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good example, one that I definitely started partway through. I can't think. I know there's more. I'd have to look at like my library of games to like see what else I maybe joined partway through. But yeah, it definitely it's interesting when you have that perspective of the sequel to go back
Yeah.
and you're like, well, why didn't they do this? Oh, because no one thought of it for another 10 years. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like
Exactly.
it's easy to say that when you're going back. Like, oh yeah, this game was like 12 years earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll forgive them for not doing that. But anyway, yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about. We'll go into Borderlands 2 because that game. Oh my god, there's just so much about it that it made it such a perfect sequel for me. So um, like I said, it's definitely the one that I hold all other sequels to, just in terms of because like Borderlands 2 as a game is flawed. Like it's not a perfect game. Some of its humor maybe doesn't hold up as strong these days or whatever. But when I say I still hold other games to it, I don't necessarily mean to the quality of the game that Borderlands 2 is in and of itself, but more of like the steps they took
Upgrade. Yeah.
upgrading it. Yeah, exactly. And like how the ways they upgraded it. So one of the things that I love, and I think I mentioned this to you, but I don't think it was on a recording. Um so one thing that Borderlands 2 does that I love so much is the evolution of its NPCs. So the way it works is in the first Borderlands game, you pick of like one of four characters, and it's like the canon is that they're all four going on this like adventure together, but it's if you're just playing by yourself, they're not actively there. But like the
Yeah.
canon is that they are all four doing all this stuff at the same time, as because it's a co-op game. Um, so the four characters that you can play as in the first game, when you go into Borderlands 2, it's like they didn't want you to like I don't know what their reasonings for doing this, just to tell another story. Uh it's like in an attempt to not like make you bored of those characters or something maybe. But you get four new characters to play as in Borderlands 2, and they all serve similar types of roles. Like you have the soldier kind of person and the sniper assassin type of person and so on. But then like the four characters from the original game are big parts of the story and are NPCs in the story
Right.
of Borderlands 2. And so you like see how their relationships have evolved with each other and stuff like that. And then you hear about it's I don't know how many, I forget how many years takes place. It's like 5 or 6 years maybe between the first two games, first game and second game. I mean, but like you hear of some of the stuff they went through, and some of them don't get along as well anymore or something. And, there's just like it really fills in that kind of world building, and just expands it in a really cool way. And they also so there's like they also just added more characters to the game, and I know that like sounds obvious, but it's like I watched a panel of one of the writers of Borderlands 2, and he said like their sort of way of introducing, when they had a new character, it had to be important to the story in some way, because he said like it's a AAA game. If they're going to spend time designing, animating, voice acting, all this stuff for a character, then like they need a return on investment. Like that character has to be important, because they're not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
waste
yeah.
all that time for just a side character that doesn't matter. And so it's like they said, they use the example of like they have like the car character, who anytime you need to deal with getting an upgraded vehicle or anything to do with the vehicle to use for a mission, it's like you go to Scooter. He's the car person. And
Yeah.
it's like, so when they like filled in more roles with characters to just be like, so like Tiny Tina is like one of my favorite characters from that game, and she's like the demolitions person. So there's a couple missions where you gotta blow shit up, and so you go to her to get a mission, and you have a couple side quests with her, and really fills out her character. And then they went and like hid like Easter eggs about, well, why is she so obsessed with explosives, and why is she kind of psychotic? And
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
put in little Easter egg things to find about like learning about what happened to her parents, and so they can really fill out those characters. But they just like gave more, like came up with more characters to fill out the world, to like serve very specific purposes, but that just helps the world building in general. And then in the first game, there wasn't really a villain. Like, I'm really trying to remember if maybe in the DLC there kind of was, but I don't remember. Like, there were enemies, but they're like,
No, like
somewhat,
super
yeah, like no
pulling the
real
strings kind of thing.
big, yeah, exactly. Like, no big imposing threat sort of antagonist that I can remember, which probably says if there was one, it wasn't very well rounded out.
Memorable. Yeah.
And so they like super up the ante for the villain in Borderlands 2 with a character named Handsome Jack. And to this day, like whether you love him or hate him based off like the humor they use to write that character or whatever, he is just one of those like, he's just like he knows he's always like, 3 steps ahead of you, and when you think you're sidestepping his plan, he just has another trap waiting for you, and he's just like on your, they call them echo devices, but it's like your comms thing. He's just like shit talking you all the time,
Yeah.
and like just really like rubbing it in or whatever. Anyway, it's like one of my favorite villains, truly, for especially for a game like that, where it's a very silly game in terms of its gameplay, like weird crazy guns, and you know enemies that shout really crazy shit at you, and
Yeah.
gory, cell shaded, and art style. Like it's a very silly game, but like that character really makes you just be like, you fucking asshole. Like it
Yeah,
really
it's
like
like,
it really
God damn
gets
it.
you like
Yeah.
your blood boiling sometimes. And so yeah, just like from the character perspective, evolving the game in all of those ways is like such a step up, to the point where it's like when I wanted to revisit Borderlands, like I was talking about like the season one of a show, I was like, nah, I don't need to play Borderlands one again. Like I get it.
Yeah,
I played
I'll just
through
start
it.
it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. I remember what happens enough, because it was a proof of concept more than anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, characters is one of the big things for sure, from that game.
From
What was one of the
oh,
bigger ones that you were going to talk about?
yeah, so I had a couple. One that I really liked, and maybe it's a little I don't know, maybe I don't know how many people agree, but like um Final Fantasy 13 2
Mm,
was a really good sequel in my mind.
yeah.
And like Didn't have lightning. I mean, lightning was kind of more of a godlike figure, but the combat was, I feel like they improved on what was the system called? The
Paradigm.
paradigm system.
Yep.
Um Caius was an awesome
I love
big bad.
Caius.
The voice acting was so good,
Yep.
obviously.
Liam O'Brien, the one of the best in the
And it
biz.
the like I liked the kind of monster acquisition aspect of it, like and then craziest ending like ever kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, I really liked 13 too. That was one that I wrote of like
It,
and Final Fantasy doesn't do many sequels. That might have been
no.
the second one.
Yeah. Ten
Um
two was the first one,
yeah,
uh, which was fine. It was all
dress
right.
up, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was fine.
it's
Yeah.
fine. Um,
But yeah, I
and it was
really
like
liked 13 too.
small things with that one where it's like they even changed the paradigm system so that you could have one of them set to like focus target or
Yeah, yeah.
like or a wide attack or whatever they called it. And it's
Like
like that's a thing where you had to have a commando in your party in
yeah,
13 original in order for them to attack the same thing. It's okay, but sometimes I want to go like triple ravager and just nuke something, but then
yeah.
and so like small things like that.
That was a good like the paradigm system was great, but I'd always had these little things, and
Yeah.
then 13 2 is like, oh yes, that's what I want.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, yeah,
And the whole thing, and it's such a nitpick really, but it's like when you played the game multiple times. In 13, the first time you paradigm switch during a battle, it does the individual zoom in of all three of them switching. And then
yeah,
and
yeah,
then if you switch subsequently after that, it'll just all switch at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
13.2 just does that like even if it's the first time, it'll do
yeah.
the
Exactly.
full.
It's like
And it's like such a nitpick, but it's like yeah, that gets annoying when you're doing it like 700 times throughout your playthrough.
yeah,
Switching
yeah.
paradigms in battle is kind of something you have to do a lot
It's
in
part
the
of the
first
whole
game.
game.
Yeah,
Like and so the you're something you'll do super quickly within the first minute of your every battle. It's like, all right, cinematic,
yeah,
kind of thing. Like, yeah,
and that's a good point with Caius because like there was like the antagonists in 13 like Barthandelus and Oracle or Orphan. But it's like they were just kind of like you're just doing your thing and like, oh, we're fighting God now. Okay, like
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
we're at
yeah,
that part of the stage,
yeah,
or at that stage of the game, and like they were around, but I never really thought they were like particularly like interesting or threatening or whatever. Whereas
not at all.
Caius is
Yeah,
like such a good villain. Whatever you think about the story of the 13 series, and I know it goes to some wild places, but 13.2 is definitely one where I definitely saw it differently playing through a second time when you kind of
yeah,
understand what Caius like why he was
going
doing the
through.
things he was doing to
Yeah.
like and why he's so broken is because he had to watch what's her name
Oh, I
Yule.
couldn't tell. Yeah. Oh, wow, nice. Yeah,
Only because there's a song called Yule's theme, I think, and so that name is more in my head. But
yeah,
he had to watch, you know, hundreds or thousands of different versions of her die because of
yeah,
what your characters are essentially doing by rippling the time, the timelines and stuff. And
yeah,
it's like that's what broke him. Like that's why he's just like he's so fucking mad because like
yeah, yeah,
you don't understand or he's mad that you don't understand the consequences that you're creating or whatever. Anyway, I love that character. His theme is like one of the best in like modern Final Fantasy
yep.
soundtracks. That was one I think when Marco was on when I had him on for an interview.
Yeah, I remember
That
you
was
talking
one
to
that
him
he
about that.
freaked out about. Yeah, Caius's theme was so good. Um, and yeah, just upping. That's like a thing 13 was missing. Like when I think of 13, I never think of like the antagonist or villain as part of why that game is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas Caius, it's like one of the pillars of why I love that game so much. Just the
There's
character and the voice, and yeah, so
I feel
good.
like we've talked about this, but there's an awesome meme. It's like the Brooklyn Nine-Nine meme of like oh, I love Final Fantasy. Yeah, name seven final bosses. God? Okay, yeah, I set the bar too low on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's on me.
I don't
Uh
even think it was Final Fantasy. I think it was JRPG. It's like, I love JRPGs. Oh yeah,
yeah,
name
yeah, yeah,
seven.
yeah.
God. All right, you
Yeah,
win.
I said that's on me. I set the bar too low.
Yeah,
But yeah, like FF13, just like yeah, I don't know, Bartendless, I like couldn't give a crap. That game was more about like how awesome Lightning and Vanille and Fang, and it's like
yeah,
I cared more about them. It's like what's their motivation? And it's like I don't know, some tattoos that they have. I don't care, like whatever.
yeah, yeah.
uh, they're gonna turn into glass. I don't know. But like that to me was the the main big bad in Final Fantasy 13 was time.
Sure. Yeah,
Father time.
yeah,
Um, but in 32 is like Caius being a big bad that you actually cared about. So
yeah. And like,
yeah.
I remember there's like that one part when it's like that my first time playing that game. There's like a part where you're in some like weird like time space sort of thing, and you run into him. Like I think it's with just Sarah by herself. And I remember being like afraid because like he's menacing. Like
Yeah.
he's and it's like even they set up the fight. They're like, you can't win this fight, or it feels like you can't
Yeah.
win
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just
Yeah.
stuff like that. And like, yeah, he's like he was such a imposing villain. Which is really funny because like Laura Bailey played Sarah and Liam
Yeah.
O'Brien plays Caius, and they're like the best friends of all time. Like they are because they're both on Critical Role and they're just like such good friends. So I always love it when there's a game where they're against each other in some way because
Yeah.
it's like yeah you just know that how much fun they probably had playing those roles to each other or whatever.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, 13-2 is a good. That's a good poll. That is a good there's a lot of things in that make it just like to me like an objectively good sequel.
Yeah.
Um, it's like the Borderlands thing. It's like yeah, Lightning's there, but you don't play as her. Like she's there to like further the
Yep.
story
Guide
and
you
stuff like
along.
that.
Yeah.
And you run into all the other and do you run into everyone? I think Vanille and Fang you like barely talk to them once because they're
Yeah.
technically still in I don't remember, but I feel like you don't run into them that much in that game.
Not really. You run into Snow.
Snow and Hope
Um,
and
yeah.
Saz. I don't remember
Maybe
if you
not
run into
Saz.
Saz, but anyway, um, yeah, just seeing those characters, in slightly updated looks or whatever, and just what they're doing now, and they're like pushing the story forward and stuff, and yeah,
Yeah.
up in the ante with the villain for sure. Yeah, man, I've been holding off replaying 13 and its sequels because
Because
that
you think you're gonna
remaster
remake it?
it's
Yeah.
the remaster's coming. I believe
Yeah.
it. And so I don't want to play through them now and I want them to be like sort of, a bit of a refresher when I go back to them. I think next year we could realistically see it because there's 14's expansion is out and we're not seeing uh part 3 FF7 Part 3 anytime in the next, 2 to 3 years. Um,
So that'd be some good filler.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing FF17. I don't even know if we'll see that announced next year,
Yeah, yeah.
revealed or whatever. But so, man, next year would be like, just drop it next year. Just do it. It's perfect. Um, but yeah, I love 13 too. It's got such a special place in my heart. I feel like also I got that one. I feel like it was right around when I moved to that apartment I had.
Oh, okay.
Like the one that I was at before here, like my apartment by myself. I feel like I definitely was playing through it there. I might have started it briefly before I moved, but I remember playing a lot of it that first like 3 weeks that I didn't have internet yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're
um,
just like, oh man, like something to do and just like
it was such like
dial
a
into it. Yeah.
yeah, it was just like new apartment, like by myself, like it just was like a warm blanket of a game
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but especially like when you get kind of that new game and it's like you're in a new spot and it's like, okay, I just kind of want something and so it's almost like I have a very specific thing I want to do and play and a certain feeling I want. It's like, oh, you know what? This will scratch that exact itch.
yeah.
And because for me, uh because, oh man, I just moved like back to Canada after Japan, and you had
Mm,
got me on 13.
right.
Like, oh, hey, you should play 13 while I was home. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess this means I have to buy a PS3 now. Like, this is just game
Yeah.
over. And so brought that with me out west when I went to work in the lab there. And then you had said like, yeah, there's a sequel. And I was like, what, really? And
Yeah,
that
because
was
it's unusual for Final Fantasy for sure.
And so that was like the first game I had ever like, downloaded. Like my first like, non-disc kind of game.
Sure.
And that's the first game I ever got a platinum. Wait,
Ah,
no, sorry.
okay.
Uh or no, sorry. I think the first one was the oh, damn it. That was the second game I ever got a platinum. The first one was that damn it. And that was a sequel. The guy who's got like some sort of disease and you like can
Prototype.
consume prototype 2, also a
Yeah.
sequel. That's the
Yeah.
first
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
that's the first platinum I ever got, and then Final Fantasy 13 2 was the second one.
Yeah, I think
But
I I don't know if it was my first platinum full stop, but it was definitely my first Final Fantasy I platinumed.
okay,
Was
because it
13
was
too.
achievable. It wasn't anything
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah,
I remember the one that was like you had to fill the bestiary or whatever, and then you had to fight like the I don't remember how you made like the last thing spawn, but it was like a boss fight basically.
yeah, yeah,
And I just remember that being like hard but achievable. It was just like, yeah.
yeah,
Then like or 10 years later, I went back and did the 13 one
yeah,
like two
yeah,
years
yeah.
ago.
Because that one's ridiculous. I don't know
Yes.
if I'll ever get that platinum. Uh, have
You,
every
yeah.
consumable ever, every
Every
weapon or
equipment
something.
or
Yeah,
weapon or whatever it is. I think it wasn't just weapon. I think it was equipment too, like
yeah,
accessories or whatever. Yeah. That required a spreadsheet and a lot of hoping I didn't fuck it up because I just
yeah,
was using an existing file and there were like 3 or 4 pieces of equipment that if I did it wrong and I like leveled them the wrong way and transformed them into the wrong thing, I
yeah,
couldn't get another version of the base one. Like I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
just buy another one and level it up again. There were like 3 or 4 pieces that I didn't know if I did, and I wouldn't know until I did everything else and saw if it popped.
Oh,
Like the
so the
trophy.
trophy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, but anyway, yeah. Oh, that's a good kind of sequel, some sequel lore there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'll get a couple more things I'll say about Borderlands 2, but I think we're just gonna take a super quick break, because we're about the hour mark. So we'll take 5 minutes. We'll go take a break, and then I'll finish up with my Borderlands stuff, and then I have one other thing that I want to mention just in terms of the sequel conversation, another series. Yeah,
Perfect.
we'll be back in
Okay.
just a minute.
All right. See you in a sec.
Thanks. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this episode so far, please take a minute to like the video and subscribe to our channel here. My brother and I have dozens of hours worth of episodes of us chatting about both games we're currently playing and reminiscing about gaming memories growing up. Also, remember to check out my side quest episode series where I invite video game music cover artists, journalists, and other content creators for one-on-one interviews about their work. I have a lot of people that I eventually want to invite to this series in the future, and the best way to get there is by starting with a click on that subscribe button. So take a moment to do that. Really appreciate it. Thanks, and now we'll get back to the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. So yeah, a couple more little things I wanted to talk about while we're talking about sequels. I said Borderlands 2 was just like one of my favorite examples of what a good sequel is, and talking about the characters and like the NPCs and the world building and stuff. One other thing that's like a little more specific to this game, like the way this game presents itself or whatever, but it's just a good example of expanding mechanics for a sequel. So one of the things in the first game was like you noticed is because it's a shooter. It's like a looter shooter is essentially what it is. So it's all about the gunplay and
Yeah.
getting better loot and new guns and seeing the numbers go up and all that kind of stuff. And um, you notice in the first game that like the guns themselves have like different brands, like in universe brands, and it's like there's a little bit of variance to the brands. Like I think uh all of the snipers almost in the first game are this company called Jacobs, and
Okay.
they make it's like when you get a Jacobs gun, it's like probably a sniper and it's or like a revolver and it's like super powerful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I feel like it had Malawan or Vladov, one of the two, or these are two brands that like it's like, oh, this one has some will probably have some elemental damage or something like that. And it's like they're like the different types of guns, like they felt mostly the same, but they usually just had an indication of like, oh, this one's going to be slower but more powerful, or this one's going to have fire damage or corrosive damage or whatever. It's going to have some of these different kind of personalities. I don't remember all of the brands. I think Hyperion was one in the first game. I'd have to look again, but I don't think there was too many. But they definitely had slightly different gun styles and effects or whatever.
Yeah.
One of the things in Borderlands 2, it's like they went like they doubled down on the differences between the brands of guns.
Mm.
So like improve the gunplay overall, but it's like if you get a Malawan gun, it's gonna shoot elemental bullets of what
Yeah.
with all the different types. And they even like the way they look was way more obvious. Like you could tell which gun was like a Malawan versus Jacob's guns. One thing they changed those ones are still like super heavy hitter guns like snipers
Yeah.
and revolvers or even some shotguns. And the like gimmick of Jacob's gun is like it literally says fires as fast as you can pull the trigger. To which point the speed runs have been really funny for that game because they'll get one of those mice that have like a wheel that's not like a normal scroll. It's like I think they call I don't know if it's called like a free spin wheel or something. But it's
Yeah.
one where you can like scroll it and it just spins and spins and spins and spins and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
resistance. So they bind shooting to mouse wheels up and just like I just spin it and it's like bang, 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 bang. Like it just goes so fast. Like bang, reload, bang. Like it just goes it's so like they just melt a boss by like
Yeah, yeah,
getting a
yeah.
Jacobs gun with like a big clip and just like just spin the wheel.
Yeah.
That's really funny. But and then like there's one I think it's called like Tedior is one of the brands, and I remember like watching way back in an interview for this game before it came out. I always remember one guy said because he was talking about the different brands and the personalities and the guns, and it's like one of them, the TDR ones, he said these are basically like the Walmart brand. And so like they're kind of like whatever, they're not really shoot like that high damage and their accuracy is kind of shit. And it's like when you reload it, you just throw it away and another one like like just they call it like digistruct or whatever. It's like another
Yeah.
one just digistructs in your hand. It's like, yeah, just
Yeah.
throw it away, whatever. Like you just build you another one.
Burner gun. Just get another
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Um, and then there's one character that they added who's like so almost like it's funny that they actually made him after they made Tiny Tina, who's the demolitions person. But the other one is like this. He's like the brand person of that they're called Torg. And it's just like those a Torg gun is explosive damage. Like all it does is it'll shoot explosive, whether it's a pistol, shotgun, whatever. It's gonna fire like
Explosive
like
shells of some
explosive
sort. Yeah.
shells. Yeah, and because he's like this super over the top kind of macho man impersonating type character, but he just like super like just talks in all caps, always yelling about how cool explosions are and air guitars and all this shit. And so it's like you just get a Tor gun and it's like, yeah, you know what that gun is gonna feel like before you
Yeah,
even
yeah,
shoot
yeah.
it. And there's a couple different ones like that. And it's just like that was such a good because so much of your time is spent like using your guns and looking for better guns. Like that is the gameplay loop
Yeah.
is getting better loot, getting higher numbers, and then you get a gun that's like it's a little less powerful, but it does burn damage per second if they get caught on fire because it's an
Yeah, yeah,
elemental
yeah.
gun and stuff like that. So it's like to really go all out on like giving such a range of personality on just the gunplay. Not even talking about a specific character, just the way each gun feels. And it's like I said, if you see a Jacobs gun, you know exactly what that gun's gonna feel like.
Yeah.
And,
Kind
and
of
so
expanding on the character of the guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah. And then they go even a step further in Borderlands 3. So it's like they continued to make them feel even more distinct from one another.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was just like, man, it's just one of those things that it just got its hooks in you. If you liked the first one at all, like the second one just did everything you liked but better,
Better.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In all the most important ways. And yeah, man, that one still just to this day, excuse me, is still just like the pinnacle of like what, especially like a number two sequel,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like a second game in a series. Like you
Yeah.
can have better sequels that are like
3, 4, whatever.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
But
like it's just the epitome of like going from the first game, which is like the pilot season of a show, to like season 3 of that
number
show
2.
in one
Yeah.
jump. Just in terms of it knows what it is, it leans into that, and it knows what it didn't do as well, or sorry, it knows what it did well in the first one, so doesn't spend time just like only improving that because we that thing the style and sort of like the absurdity of the world is what they got right in the
Mm.
first game, like how these characters are just like just so weird and crazy, and the world they live on is like this savage, this savage kind of
Wasteland kind of thing.
wasteland. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like Mad Max kind of, post-apocalyptic looking area and stuff. It's like, yeah, just continue to do that, but fill out all the other weaker parts. And
Yep.
I feel like that's what that game did so well. And really just when I went back and replayed it, I didn't think I was gonna play all the way through it, and then like 4 days later, I did like a 30-hour playthrough. It's just god damn, this game is, and I did like it has 4 DLC. The
Oh,
Parrot
wow.
one, the Torg one. No, I think it's 3 DLC. God, if there's another set. Oh, there's one that came out right before Borderlands 3 came out to like bridge the gap, but I didn't do that one. But the other two big DLCs that are like, 6 or 7 hours each,
Oh, wow.
um, I hadn't, me and Mike played those when they came out in like 2012.
Oh, wow.
So I hadn't actually, I've played Borderlands 2 again, but I didn't play those DLC since they first came out. And so I went through those again. And then there's one third one that I'm just waiting on one of my friends, because she's never played that DLC, and I actually never beat that third DLC. So I'm waiting for her to like we'll co-op go through it. It's
Oh, gotcha.
basically like I think I told you this off recording, but it's like the characters in universe are playing a version of Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then you're playing the campaign in that Dungeons and Dragons experience, which
Yes,
led
yeah.
to Wonderlands, basically as a spinoff. But anyway, yeah. So I just like went all in on that, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm playing Borderlands 3 again, and I'm like, I'm still working on that one. That definitely is a bit of a longer game, and I'm like 30 hours into that or something, and I'm pretty nearing the end, but I'll probably do the DLC for that too. Um,
No, we talked just briefly about like I remember when we were talking about FF7 Rebirth, and we were like, the reason this game even has the potential to punch at the fight weight that it does is because FF7 Remake was so well done. And it's like, okay, well, the character models are, we got that figured out. We get the
right.
voice acting kind of figured out. We have so many things figured out. Now, let's spend a shit ton of time making this an actual, like, huge, and it's like, that's a sequel. Like,
Yeah.
we did so much
The groundwork
work.
was done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Groundwork on the basics. We don't, now we could, all the work that we spent just designing, you know, what does cloud look like?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like that's all done. Now it's about like, okay, what's this town look like? Like,
Yeah.
what's the anyway, when you not only expand on the gameplay or on the mechanics, but just like we have like the groundwork is done. There's no skeletal framework, now let's still put the amount of hours into this that we should and
Yeah.
put it into real like world building and like don't just be like, oh, this means we can just do 20 hours worth of work and bing bang boom, there's a new
Right.
game.
It's
Yeah.
just that you don't have to spend 3 months deciding what the combat is going to be.
Yeah, exactly,
It's
will
like,
this work? Oh god,
yeah,
yeah.
like from the ground up. It's just like, okay, the combat works. What can we do now? Take those same 3 months. I'm just using arbitrary numbers, but say take that same amount of time, and what can we expand on the combat with now and use the hours
Yeah.
to do that? Yeah.
And also, you 100 people spend 100 hours just making the Sephiroth in the fire scene perfect. Like,
Yeah.
that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's why it's like the familiar but expanded is like, yeah, when they got the essential stuff right the first time,
Yeah.
then it just gives you the freedom. I mean, I'm assuming I'm not a game dev, so maybe I'm talking completely out of my ass, but I got to imagine it gives you that freedom to just like, okay, we know the foundation is good, so like let's get creative and find fun ways of building that out while spending the same amount of time making the game as we made the first one or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that anyway. All that being said, Borderlands 2 is like, and I just played it like a month ago or whatever it was, and it's like, yeah, that game is still very solid and just really fun once you get. They have like a little bit of a slow start because you have like a talent tree, like a skill tree, and
Okay.
it's like, yeah, when you only have 1 point in that skill tree, the gameplay is not that exciting yet. But once you start getting like halfway down, you really start to like develop a build for the character, and yeah, that's just when it all clicks, and it's so much fun. But yeah, to this day, that is still one of my pinnacle or my peak sequel comparisons. Is like,
Yeah.
did you do what Borderlands 2 did to Borderlands 1? Like, if you did, then to me, I will probably love this.
Successful sequel.
It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
successful sequel for me at least. Um, yeah, that one is just one of my favorites. Another one that I was going to talk about brief. Did you have another one to talk about?
I was just gonna mention kind of,
Sure,
before we
you go
were
first.
done was Spider-Man 2.
Mm.
So like I
Yeah,
wouldn't
because
say
you're just playing that now.
right now.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So it's like, oh, I'm not throwing it in like the best sequels of all time kind of category, but like that is a solid game and just kind of expands on the it's like, oh, is Miles Morales the sequel or is this the sequel? But at least it combines the two.
Oh, I definitely
Yeah.
I see Miles Morales as like a spin-off, like
Yeah.
almost like DLC, like a
DLC,
spin-off
yeah,
adventure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Spider-Man 2 feels like mushing those two games together, the first one and Miles Morales, and like that's your foundation is mushing those together and then build on that foundation.
yeah. And so it's like, I think that is a good game. Is it a like from here to there sequel upgrade? It's like, oh, maybe not so much, but it's just a fantastic game. That's a
Yeah,
lot of fun
it's
and really
very polished.
flexes the PS5 in load time, especially. So
Yeah, when you were
yeah.
telling me like, yeah, when you're looking at your map, fast travel, and it just like zooms in and you're mid swing. You're like
You're like,
mid
oh,
web
okay,
swing.
I guess we're good here. Like
Yeah.
I was gonna take a drink here, but no, I guess I'm just
Yeah.
gonna just keep playing here. So yeah,
Yeah. And just like their combat feels like more expanded and you can switch between them. I really like how in that one you'll like go to a petty crime and like
yeah.
if you're Miles, Spider-Man will also be
Oh, and
there
he'd
and then
be
you do
there.
little
Yeah,
team up
yeah, yeah,
attacks and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely up there, but I agree. It's like it definitely feels maybe like Spider-Man 1.5 instead of
yeah,
2,
yeah.
but it's not really a bad thing because of how good it is at what it's doing.
Oh
Um,
man, and like there was one point like spoiler alert. I guess the game's like a year old now, but like when you're Peter and you got the symbiote suit and like you finally are kind of like getting rid of it and just like the you know, emotion associated with that and everything. Like that was like pretty powerful voice acting. Like that was
yeah,
just like Jesus Christ. Like this game really like punches hard.
the
So yeah.
performance and like the voiceover performance and like Miles, I still and I don't know what it is about him and his voice actor, but it he just gets me like so good. Like he's
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't know, just such a good voice actor. I have to look up who that is 'cause I can't remember who the person is that voices him, but
He
yeah, the
does a really good
performance on
job.
that both
And
of them
like,
is excellent. I mean, Yuri Lowenthal is one of the best of all time for
oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah.
But I'm I like Miles keeps up with him in terms of performance. Like it's not like
Yeah.
Peter's character steals the show for me.
No,
Like they
it's
really
more
keep
about
them up.
Miles. Like, yeah, yeah. I'm anyways, great game, solid side quest stuff. Um villains were awesome, and then like just getting into Venom, you're just like, fuck yeah, like
Yeah.
this this is what I wanted.
Have you
So yeah.
done what you said Peter's getting
I
rid of
finished it. Uh
Oh, you finished it. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I think it's when Harry first like turns into Venom and then you
Yeah.
play as him
Yeah.
for
Oh
that
yeah.
sequence where you're just like
Destroying everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
I'm just like,
intense.
oh God.
Yeah, that
Uh
was so sick.
yeah.
And it was
Oh
such a good like it was like okay, they want us in with before the game came out. It's like they want us to think that God, what's the hunter? What's his name?
anyway, the hunter or something.
Oh
Yeah,
God, I
yeah.
forget his name. They want you to think like, oh, that's gonna be Venom because he's a
Yeah.
big hulking,
Yeah.
buff guy. And
Yeah.
so it's like, but it's like, okay, I know you want me to think that's gonna be who it is. I know that's
Yeah.
not gonna be it, but I don't know who it is gonna be. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I didn't expect it to be Harry, honestly.
No, no.
So that
And
was a cool surprise.
I love like you get to play as black suit Spider-Man for so long.
Yeah,
And like he's being such an asshole. And the suit like changes several like times.
yeah,
Like it
that's
gets
right.
more and more kind of, I don't know, alien-like.
Yep,
Yeah. Oh, it was just awesome. So anyway, now I'm on like platinum hunting mode
nice.
for that. So yeah.
They also teased some like side quest or something. No, I don't even think it was a side quest. The guy who becomes Carnage, you meet
Oh
him
yeah, yeah.
at I
Yep.
forget his name. He's like some insane asylum person.
But yeah,
Uh
that whole like side quest of searching down the whatevers, yeah, that was anyway, whatever his name is, the guy who becomes Carnage. Yeah,
yeah. So like, he'll be back in some form.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that was the other part where the PS5 is just flexing so absurdly hard
yeah,
when you're doing some side quest with what's her name, Black Cat,
yeah,
and you go through these portals.
yeah, yeah.
Like
You're just like, what is man, fucking PS5? Like just crazy. Yeah.
that's so
Uh
crazy. Anyway, yeah, Spider-Man
yeah.
2, also very
Great,
good sequel.
great sequel, great
Yeah,
sequel. The PS5 flex of just like
yeah.
yeah, and there was like a subtle you could see like the Doctor Strange kind
Oh,
of
that was definitely like some device that makes his portals
yeah,
for
exactly,
sure. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And some of the
So
cool team up sequences during that when like I just remember like you're fighting and like the portal opens and Black Hat comes and does like an assist
yeah.
through the portal and like god yeah that game was That game was so good. It was such a good sequel.
And like I love Black Cat. Like
Yeah,
she's the best. I
and
find
it's
her character.
Erica Lindbeck
Oh yeah, definitely.
voices
Yeah,
her. So
Jesse
yeah,
voice actor. Yeah,
really
yeah.
delivers for
N-
sure.
Erica is like one of my favorite voice actors. She's awesome, and she
Yeah,
does a. There's an awesome DLC for Spider-Man 1
yeah,
that's like all about
with
Black
her.
Cat and
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I remember
Um
that.
but no, that game flexed the PS5 hard and was oh, I've been loving it. You know, I'm a little late to the party, but it's been
Eh,
awesome. So,
yeah, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. Um, yeah. So the one last kind of sequel talk I wanted, or a game that I want to talk about is so I've re-downloaded these and I'm planning on playing through them because they teased. Oh yeah, that's I said this is why I got wanted to play Borderlands again was spite of the movie, but also because they teased Borderlands 4 like
Oh, okay.
at Gamescom I think a couple weeks ago. There's just like a CG super quick teaser trailer, like doesn't give anything away. So no nothing to like analyze yet, but just Borderlands 4. Like, okay, I want to play Borderlands again.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the same boat with this other series, which is funny because they actually, when I looked at their release dates, I feel like they each of the three games came out pretty close together, and I always almost associate these games with each other just because I always end up playing them at around the same time. Darksiders
Oh,
is
nice.
is a series that I love, and I feel like it gets overlooked a lot. Um, and I just remember this was back when I was working, way back when it was Future Shop. One of the guys that worked there, I was looking at it because like the box art character design looked really good. I feel like it was character designs by people that worked on some of the Warcraft games because they just look very exaggerated,
Yeah, yeah,
big
yeah.
bulky kind of characters. Like I feel like there was some connection there, but I just liked the look of it. And the guy told me it was like it's kind of like Zelda and Bayonetta. I'm like,
Mm.
sold.
Sign me up. Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
will try that. Because the combat is like very hack and slash kind of action
Yeah.
gamey, but it's got like literal like Zelda dungeons with a boss at the end and a power up you get in the dungeon that you use to fight the boss. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it definitely follows that sort of formula and like equivalent of finding heart pieces,
Yeah.
to get more life and whatever.
Is
Um,
that the game where in the sequel you're death? Is
yeah,
that one?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the first game is it's the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and it's the first game you play as War, who's also voiced by Liam O'Brien, and he's
Oh,
basically
okay.
the same voice as Caius.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's really good. And then the second game, Darksiders 2, you play as Death, and the third game you play as Fury. So they just also teased Darksiders 4
Oh, okay.
coming. Again, just like a 10-second teaser, but that was a little different because it was like owned by another company, and that company got sold, but then the rights got bought by another publisher. So
Okay.
like Darksiders 3 was made by this company, this developer called Gunfire Games, and 1 and 2 were made by like THQ, like
Yeah.
or at least I don't remember if who was the actual developer, but it wasn't the same necessarily, or maybe there was some crossover, but it definitely was a slightly different people directing at the helm for Darksiders 3, and it's like that game did okay, like it didn't do
Yeah.
like crazy well. I love it, I really love that game. But it was like, man, are we gonna get like we gotta have four because we need one with Strife as the last one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like, man, we really need that fourth game so we can complete the set.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there was one, I think it was like a prequel, and it was sort of like a top-down co-op game, and Strife was in that, but we're like, no, we need like
Proper
a
full on.
proper full-on sequel with Strife, because
Who oh, go ahead.
you like kind of he enters the scene at the end of 3, and
Oh, okay.
it's very
Okay.
clearly like you know,
it's
you will
coming.
play him
Yeah, yeah.
next. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
obviously setting that up. So it was just unsure if we were getting one because of all the, probably because of the rights changing hands and not having a super successful third game like commercially.
Will this
Um,
get picked up? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so it was
Yeah.
like never a guarantee. So I saw that and I was like, well, I'm installing the first three games and I'm going to play them again as
Oh,
well.
and I'm so okay, my question was gonna be who did the voice acting for Death in the second one? I feel like it was someone famous.
You're probably right. I'm forgetting, but I will fact check really quick.
It wasn't like Troy Baker or something like that.
No, no. Voice actor.
Just because while you look that up, because I've never played any of those games, but I remember I watched you kind of play a bit of the first one,
Hmm.
and then the second one was you were doing like a bunch of like let's plays
Yep,
about that.
yep.
Um, and so that was when I was in Japan. And so what I would do
Ah,
was because I'd be like, okay, I'm going to visit so and so on the other side of Tokyo. And this is I didn't have a cell like I had a cell phone, but I didn't have a data plan while I was there. Like it was my old cell phone from Canada, so it was just a glorified iPhone video essentially, or
right.
iPod video. Um, so I would like load up a bunch of like LPs from you playing that
Okay.
game. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be on the train for an hour. I'm just gonna watch Garrett play this game,
Darksiders.
Darksiders 2. And I think I watched you like play that entire game just
Oh
on the
shit!
subway.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny because this is why I say like they were that and Borderlands were really coming out at the same time because like I did a co-op let's play of Borderlands 2 with Mike and Dave.
Oh,
And
okay.
I feel like I was recording those like I like recorded like a couple hours of
Congruently,
Borderlands
yeah.
one day and a couple hours of Darksiders the next day and then I would just chop them up. And I was doing that at like the same time because I feel like they
Oh,
both
wow.
came out within a week of each other or something. Um and but yeah, I didn't know you watched those when back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes sense for all the commuting. So it isn't someone I recognize. His name is Michael Wincott. He is
Oh,
from
okay.
Canada though. He's from Toronto.
Oh, nice.
But he did like one character in Halo 2. A lot of like cartoons and stuff. It looks like.
Maybe I'm just thinking of like the voice actor for the first one.
Yeah, that's one you would definitely recognize for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and anyway, so yeah, they teased a potential Darksiders 4 coming, and so it's like, yeah, I'm going to play all three of these games again. And so the thing with these ones that make them really good sequels as like a trilogy is they do. I don't even know how I would categorize. It's not like a Final Fantasy situation because they are sort of sequential, um, but it's like so. It has a very distinct visual sort of identity. Like it's got a
Yeah.
very visual
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
style. Very obvious when you look at a Darksiders game, it's a Darksiders game.
Yeah.
And but it's like so all three of the main games you play as like I said, like you war, then death, then fury, and all three of them play so differently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
War is like a little more slow, but like really like big great sword kind of weapon. Um, much more just like big and like powerful lumbering kind of character.
Yeah,
Whereas
like a
Death,
tank kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and then Death is like really agile, like backflipping over enemies and like running up walls. When you're doing these like environmental puzzles, whereas War would like claw into the wall and climb it slowly. Death just
Yeah.
like as long as there's like a little post or whatever you could run up, he'll like kind of loop around that and run and keep running up and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And then Fury is like she's kind of in between War and Death in terms of like her speed and mobility, but she has like a whip sword. Kind of
Oh,
like
nice.
Ivy from Soul Calibur.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
she'd get you. All of them get other weapons. Like Death has his scythes, but you can get other weapons too. And that one has a little more RPG mechanics with loot, because you actually can get like different weapons of a type, and they have different effects, or you're kind of doing the numbers game in that one. Um, And then in 3 you have like the whip sword, and she can get other weapons as you do like the, you know, the main objectives of clearing out these sort of dungeon like areas.
Yeah.
But that one plays a little more closer to like a, almost like a Dark Souls, but I would, it's like almost an unfair comparison because it's not meant to feel that way, but it's definitely more um like, what's the word? Not volatile, but like you take way more damage, and like the enemies are way more dangerous.
Yeah, yeah,
And
gotcha,
so it's
gotcha.
all about, you know, there's like you get a perfect dodge and you do like a really like very satisfying attack if you know, after if you do a perfect dodge. Anyway, they all have like similar feeling combat, but just distinct enough from one another that the last time I, you know, a couple of years ago, I did a playthrough of all three of them, and you don't get like burnt out by the end because like they don't feel identical in the
Oh,
way they
okay, yeah,
play,
yeah, yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just different enough that like it feels fresh when you're starting the next game. And like the dungeon sort of you know, layout or structure is more similar in the first two games, and the third one's a little more exploration, and but it does have distinguishable like dungeon stuff too. So they're kind of, they still got that sort of Zelda esque feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, those three games, it's like it's all very obviously Darksiders, but all three of them just feel so unique to each other that you just don't get, it doesn't feel samey when you're going through one to the next to the next. And so
And
that's why I'm excited for whatever the fourth one will be. Because I think that character is more about guns, so that one will be probably more like a Devil May Cry maybe. Well, even that he uses weapons like melee weapons too. But so I don't really know what what that one's gonna feel like. I'm trying to think of like a good like action game, but with like guns instead of like melee weapons. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Um,
it's nice when like you, what's the word? Like you clearly have four different characters, which is like, okay, like we have a reason that these games will be different. Like
right,
you have a mechanism for like, it's like, how do we not just do the same thing?
right,
Well, we can have the same universe, the same vibe, the same kind of like you know, game, but it's a different character. So obviously it's going to be a different kind of, hey, this is a different person with a different weapon, with a different, you know,
yeah. Yeah, you
strength
don't have to
and
like come
whatnot.
up with some weird reason why your
Why?
character is different than in the second game versus the first game or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's always like, hey, this was well set up to be a quadrilogy and to be four very different games,
right.
but with some sameness that links them, kind of thing.
At least
So
yeah,
yeah,
four different characters like being the star of the four games, even though the
yeah,
games
yeah,
will structurally feel familiar. But yeah, it's the yeah, just the way the characters play out. It's just like I said, just different enough that it's not like you don't get burnt out by the end of,
yeah,
by the time you start the next game or whatever.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's like, oh, there's going to be a bit of a shift here. So
yeah,
yeah,
even the way you progress each of the characters is a little different. Like I think in the second game you have like a more distinguishable like talent tree that you can build death like a really like one way or another. And war, I feel like you just get incremental upgrades if you're doing more exploration and stuff. And then fury, it's a little more like the first game, but I think there's like a leveling system where you choose where to put points in every time you level between like I think it's like magic or whatever their version of magic damage is called, or like
okay,
melee or health or something. But you get way very distinctive weapons when you clear out these four areas of the map, and those all feel very different from it. Like you have your whip sword, but then you have this like gravity hammer and like these fire daggers and like a lightning spear, and those all feel really different that you
yeah,
switch
yeah,
between, and you use that for puzzle solving and environmental, you know, exploration and stuff. So yeah, it does a good mix, and it definitely does a good job keeping them feeling unique to each other. And that's just a series that I'll never not try to convince someone to try because they're just really fun. Like it's a very there was so many of these types of games in like the PS3 era, just like third person action games,
Yep,
and
yep,
it just very much is one of those. And I don't know, there's just like there's something about those games that I just have such a soft spot for.
yeah,
That they're not trying to be a big open world sandbox game. They're just like, it's what I call them, like wide linear. Like you're not in a hallway, but it's like you have an objective and you know roughly which direction to go.
yep,
It'll sort of funnel you there if you're following the clue or the waypoints or whatever. But
yep, yep,
it's just like, yeah, those games are so great, and I love the visuals. um the presentation of those games is so good, so I'm excited to see what the fourth one's going to look like, and if it is the true fourth game with Strife as the main character,
yeah,
then I'll be excited to like play all four of those in a row at some
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but those are just some, Borderlands 2. We talked a lot about just being one of my favorite sequels in general. But it's funny that the only one I really could think about that I wanted to talk about was the Darksiders, because those two just occupy the same part of my brain, because they, like, literally
Came
Darksiders
out,
1 and
yeah,
Borderlands 1 I feel like came out around the same time, and then both the second games came out, and I'm pretty sure the third game came out in 2019, which is when Borderlands 3 came out. So yeah, they're constantly in sync with each other. So they I
yeah,
always
yeah, yeah,
associate one with the other just for that reason in my brain. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for those. Just in terms of you know good sequels, but like I said, Rebirth is the ultimate now. So
yeah, yeah,
that has
exactly.
taken the crown.
This this episode could have been 2 seconds. Ultimate sequel, Rebirth. Okay,
Rebirth.
I'll see
Okay,
you
see you
next
next
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. But
but
it does a lot of the things we're saying. It just does it on such an insane level of quality and quantity both.
yeah.
That yeah, that's why it's the best. So, um, the right now, so I finished Visions of Mana. So I'll talk about that at some point down the road. Um, Working on Astrobot, which is
Nice, nice.
10 out of 10. That game is so fucking jolly. Like, God,
Nice, nice.
it's definitely like, I don't think I've been this blown away. Like, Mario Odyssey was great, but I don't feel like it changed the game in a way that like Mario Galaxy did before. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
Mario
yeah, yeah.
Galaxy, like, level design was just like, what are these levels? Like, you're with the gravity and the little planetoids,
Yeah.
like that was just such a shift. And like this feels to me just like one of the best like platforming experience I've had since like Mario Galaxy, just in terms of being
Oh, wow.
being really
Nice.
impressed with what ideas they had and the way they deliver them, and yeah, the level design stuff. So anyway, so I really try not to, because I could beat that game in one day probably, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing like one or two worlds a day. Like I'm just playing it for like an hour or
Pacing
two every
yourself.
day and just
Yeah.
enjoying it. Um, and then uh, Warhammer Space Marine 2 just came out, talking about sequels. Um, Loved that game. That was like 13 years ago now, but it was really good.
Huh.
First game, they finally came out with another one, and I'm playing through that as well. That's my other one I'm working on. That one's really good so far. And Baldur's Gate 3 added mod support, official mod support. Added,
Okay.
I was like, okay, I guess I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 again. Usually you could only have a party limit of 4 people, and I know there were ways to mod it before, but I don't like doing unofficial mods because they're just too easily they can too easily break, and then it's hard. I have a hard time figuring out how to fix them. But there's like official mod support you can do like right from the main menu in the game,
Yeah.
one of the so you can only have 4 characters, and you make one usually of your own. So of all the cast of characters, you can usually only pick 3 to like
Yeah,
have
yeah,
fun with.
yeah.
and there's a mod that's like increased party limit. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, I will take all of the characters. It will
yeah.
be an easier playthrough because the combat is tuned for fighting you as a party of four. But I
Yeah.
don't care. I've already beaten it. I wanna really enjoy. And it's like, because they all have specific banter in different areas, and you wouldn't even hear it if you didn't have them with you. So you just get to hear all of it. Like you really
Oh,
get
that's
like a
amazing.
more full experience. So anyway, they that came out like a week or two ago, the patch where they added that. And so I'm like 20 hours into another Baldur's Gate 3 thing. It's so good. I have it on my Steam Deck, so that's probably what I'll play on the plane
Oh, nice,
when I'm
nice.
coming out when I'm flying
I
out.
I'm like I cruised through Mario Wonder. That was kind of
Yep,
a game I played over the summer. And beat Octopath 2.
yep,
And now just kind of side quest kind of wrapping up there. But so
yeah.
yeah, some games in the works there.
The and yeah, you just
And
finished the
Spider-Man 2.
story of Spider-Man 2, just work all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
trophies. Um
And like in that one, like it's I've got like 5 more trophies left. Like all the side quests were done well before the main story was done. It's just a matter of like swing from Brooklyn to wherever in
sure.
one whatever. Like I just got to do
The very
the
specific things.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got most of them on the first playthrough. So yeah.
Cool. Do you know what the next one you're gonna tackle is?
Oh man, yeah. Good question. I don't. Huh. Yeah, not sure. Something to think about then. Yeah.
I don't think I have any
I've got
other September games.
Stellar Blade is like probably
Hmm.
next on my list, but
Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
that's not a very long game either. Well, it's longer than I thought it was gonna be. I think it was like 30 hours, I guess, probably by the time I finished it. But it's that is one that I described as like this feels like a PS3 action game,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
like in
Yeah.
a good way that it's just like just like there's a little bit of open world stuff in between, but then when you're going to a mission, it's like linear, just like get to the boss fight of this
Yeah. Yeah.
level or whatever. And man, that game was good. I can't believe that came out this year. It feels like so long ago, just with all the other shit that came out. That's another one I have to revisit at some point. It's so good. Stellar Blade, man, that game was so good.
So yeah, I think that's next on my list, and then maybe after Thursday, maybe a Rebirth play. Like yeah, who knows?
Oh, we
But
have to, yeah. Uh, if time allows, I think the plan was for you to cap off the year with Tears of the Kingdom.
oh yes, exactly, exactly.
We
So
were gonna
that
bookend your year with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So
yeah, so that
that would
is
be something to start
definitely
thinking about because that's a long game too.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, and just like how much um Breath of the Wild like just changed my life, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like
And I think it will have been long enough that you won't feel the burnout of playing them back to back. That would be
I
a
don't
hard
even
one to play back
I
to
don't even
back.
remember what it was like to play Breath of the Wild. Like
Sure.
it was funny. The other day it was like, you play Breath of the Wild, right? A friend of mine was asking, I was like, yeah, yeah. And it's like, oh, what's your favorite part? It's like, I don't remember that game at all. Like, it's just like I remember Rebirth. I feel like that just like
Oh yeah, that's right. You finished it right before Rebirth, so it got
yeah.
wiped.
Yeah.
It
I
got pushed
remember
aside in your brain for
because
more
like
real estate from Rebirth.
Breath of the Wild to me, like what that game feels like is there's 6 feet of snow outside and I can't do shit all, so I'm just gonna play this game all day.
Right.
And it's not, and Rebirth comes out end of February, so I just gotta kill some time until that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I can't even remember what that game was like, so I'm sure it'll
Perfect.
be
You'll be
perfect.
primed for a good
Yeah,
Tears of the Kingdom playthrough then. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would say plan to pick that up probably by November.
Oh
Uh,
man.
if you want to like get it in before the end of the year, because that'll be a 100-hour game probably.
Well, I
To
remember
finish.
when I was playing Breath of the Wild, you were like, you would log on to your Switch and be
Oh
like,
yeah, you did rack up
Jesus
those hours
Christ.
pretty fast. That's true. I forget how fast you hit 100 hours on Breath of the Wild.
Well, it was, I mean, the winter that we had was exactly why.
And I think it's because like it won't show you. I don't. It won't show how many hours you've played it until 2 weeks have gone by
Oh,
from the
okay.
first time you. And so it's like when I could see what your hours are, they were like
Yeah.
started at 90, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
within
yeah,
two
yeah.
weeks you were already like that high. So, anyway, yeah. So we'll
That
get
that
you on
that's
that.
very high up on the list. I'm excited about that. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
I'm gonna see. I don't want to show my hand too much, but I was gonna I'm gonna reach out to Susie, who came on to do the Zelda talk for the last interview. I'm gonna see if she would want, because I think she's replaying Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and I was like, maybe I'll see what her availability would be. It'd be fun to do all three if I get her on with you, with a fresh replay
Oh,
from
nice.
her, and just maybe talk about specific things about that game, like favorite moments or whatever. I'll see if that's in the cards, but that'd be fun to do.
One
Um,
thing I do need to do, and this is a hard get the motivation to redo is like I'm at how many Koroks are there in the first game? Like 800 maybe?
900.
900. I'm at 899 and
Oh, oh
like and
no.
I don't know and I've gone through the entire map and like it took me like a week and it was just like yes, I did get that one. Yes, I did get that one.
Yeah.
900 times is like that's all of them. Like which one is it? Like how did I miss one? I went through it
It
very meticulously.
it's
Uh
probably in Hyrule Castle because you can't see that map when you're in there. Like
I
it
was pretty
changes.
careful about that one. So
Maybe not then. Yeah, there might just be too stacked. I know that happened to me too, where I did that at
yeah.
least once, where I went through it and I'm like, well, that's all of them. What the fuck? I
Yeah.
know that happened to me for sure at least once or twice because
So maybe I'll do and so at that point I was just like, fuck this. Like, so I need some time to go by and then I'll do it again. But if too much time goes by, I'll forget how the game even works.
yeah,
So anyway, we'll see. But like Korra cut, like I loved every minute of that.
I
Like
know. I should.
yeah.
It should have been more annoying than it was, but I just loved like, oh, here's five more pings, and they're like, all right, go to this one, go to that one, go to that one. Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
bring it up. Five more. Here we go. Here we go. And just yeah, doing that for hours on end.
So anyway, so it's like I may revisit to try and get that 900th one. But anyways, I'm excited to play Breath of the sorry, Tears of the Kingdom for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a good way to cap off the year too.
Yeah.
Since you started with it. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But yeah, that'll be fun to rediscover. I've thought about replaying that too. I was just like, oh god, it's so long. Like I don't. That's such a long game to replay, like Rebirth. So I'll probably tackle it maybe next year at some point. Maybe
Awesome.
when the new Switch comes out sometime next year, and if they like improve, if the new Switch improves frame rates of the first Switch games, then I'll probably replay it then. Same with the Xenoblade games. I want to do those too, but yeah, not enough time in the day to get
Not
these
enough hours
games.
in the day. Gotta go to work sometime.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately. Um,
but anyways, this was an awesome kind of sequels chat. There's a lot more to go through than I kind of expected.
yeah,
So
same.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how much we would have to talk about, but as usual, we go on way longer than I always planned for. So
Yeah.
that's a
Perfect.
good problem to have. Um, so yeah, we'll call it there then. Like I said, Matt and I are going to that concert this week, so I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point on the next time we record. Um, I have another potential interview that I'm talking to someone about. I'm just trying to lock in a date with them. That will probably be up before we do another episode. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't know what we're going to talk about next time. I'll talk probably about the games that I've been playing since then because I'll probably be finished Space Marine, and Astrobot by then at least. So
Nice.
we'll have some stuff to talk about next time. But yeah, I have
Cool.
to figure out if I have a suitcase that will fit on the plane that I can bring in the next few days. I haven't actually traveled by air in like 10 years. So I got to get some stuff sorted for Thursday morning. And then, yeah,
Perfect. Oh, it's
we'll
gonna
be
be
ready for
awesome.
that concert. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Matt, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe as well. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Beauty.
Thanks.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.